Welcome back to the Circular Economy Excellence Podcast. I'm Henrik Hvid Jensen. Today, we are exploring chapter 14 of my book, which focuses on the role of customer touchpoints in the circular economy. As always, I used AI to analyze and interpret the content of this chapter, creating a discussion between two artificial minds to break down the key insights for you. I wrote this chapter because the transition to circular business models mean that many manufacturers are stepping into unfamiliar territory when it comes to direct engagement with their product users. Historically, many manufacturers have operated under a sell and forget paradigm, where the primary interaction has been with the next in line rather than the actual end users of their products. In a circular economy, this must change. To extend product life, enable reuse, and optimize resource recovery, manufacturers must develop new capabilities for engaging directly with their customers throughout the entire product lifecycle. These ongoing touchpoints allow manufacturers to, first of all, stay connected with their products beyond the initial sale, to provide repair and maintenance insights that reduce unnecessary replacement. It enables them to build long-term relationships that drive loyalty and service-based business models. And just as important, they will be capturing valuable data, which is an essential part of data-driven circularity. By creating seamless digital and data-driven customer touchpoints, manufacturers can shift from transactional relationships to continuous engagement, ultimately making circularity more profitable and scalable. Let's jump into this conversation between my two AI friends and explore how customer touchpoints are becoming a strategic advantage for circular businesses.
All right, so today we're diving into chapter 14 of Henrik Hvid Jensen's book.
Circular economy opportunities and pathways for manufacturers.
Yeah, exactly. And we're focusing on how companies can use digital tools, to really boost those customer interactions and
make this whole circular economy thing work.
Right. Yeah, make it really hum.
It's a really relevant topic, right? Because everyone's talking about circularity, and this chapter digs into how manufacturers can
get away from that.
Yeah, can transition from that old linear take, make, dispose model to a circular one.
Right, where products are, kept in use as long as possible.
Exactly. And what's so interesting is that
it all hinges on digital tools, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Digital tools are really at the heart of this whole transition.
But it's not as simple as just putting up a website, right?
Yeah.
You can't just expect customers to
Right.
suddenly be on board with this whole new way of thinking.
Exactly. You can't just tell them to embrace it.
Yeah.
It takes more than that. Jensen introduces this concept in the book. It's called the 1+5R model, which basically lays out the steps in a circular economy.
Like a roadmap.
Yeah, you could think of it like that. And those steps are rethink, reduce, reuse, repair, refurbish, and recycle.
All the R's.
Right. And digital tools are what can actually make these R's come to life for the customer.
Okay, I see. So we need to rethink how we're explaining things too.
Yeah.
I got it. So how does all of this play out in the real world? What's a good example?
Well, Jensen uses this smart flow pump as an example.
Right, the smart flow pump. What makes it so special?
Well, think about it this way. A customer buys this pump and they download the app. And suddenly they're not just using a pump.
They're part of this whole...
Yeah, they're part of a digital ecosystem. The app gives them usage tips and maintenance reminders.
Oh, wow.
It even schedules service appointments.
It does all that.
Yeah, that's a whole other level of interaction that we don't usually see with traditional products.
So the customer isn't just a passive buyer anymore.
Right.
They're actually engaged with the entire life cycle of the product.
Exactly. It's like an ongoing conversation between the manufacturer and the customer.
I like that.
Building this relationship that goes way beyond just that initial sale.
Yeah, but is one app really enough to build that kind of trust and loyalty? I mean, customers interact with companies all over the place these days.
That's true. You need a more holistic approach, right? So this is where the idea of a seamless multi-channel customer journey comes in.
Okay, multi-channel customer journey.
You need unified customer data. So no matter how the customer is interacting with the company.
Through the app, the website.
Social media, email, whatever it is.
All of it.
All of that interaction data is recorded and accessible.
That makes sense. And the messaging has to be consistent across all those channels too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So you avoid those frustrating experiences where you have to explain your issue over and over.
Every time you switch from email to phone support, yeah.
Right. But it goes beyond just like basic customer service. Think about integrated support, right? Where your question can move seamlessly between those channels without losing any context.
So I don't have to repeat myself.
You got it. And that really shows the customer that the company cares, you know?
Really invested in the customer's experience.
Exactly.
That's good stuff. Okay, so we've got this seamless experience. The customer feels valued. They're engaged with the product.
Right.
But eventually that product's got to reach the end of its life, right? What happens then?
That's where it gets really interesting. Jensen argues that digital platforms can create completely new business models within the circular economy.
Like what? What kinds of business models?
Well, take Harley-Davidson, for example. They have this online marketplace for pre-owned motorcycles.
Oh, wow. So instead of always pushing new bikes,
Yeah.
they're actually encouraging reselling their existing products.
Exactly. They're basically saying, hey, let's keep these bikes on the road longer. They created this platform where customers can buy and sell used Harleys.
Okay.
But the key here is trust.
Because you don't know what you're getting with a used Harley.
Right. Yeah. So they offer certified pre-owned motorcycles that go through these rigorous inspections, and they come with warranties too.
So they're not just dumping a bunch of old bikes on a website.
No.
They're making sure there's quality and building trust in that marketplace.
Right.
That's actually really smart.
Yeah.
But doesn't that, like, cannibalize sales of their new motorcycles?
It's a good question and a valid concern. But Jensen argues that the benefits outweigh the risks, you know?
Okay.
By keeping those motorcycles in circulation longer, they're actually attracting a wider customer base.
Oh, I see. Because someone who couldn't afford a brand new Harley
Exactly.
might be happy with a certified pre-owned one.
Exactly. It's not just about selling more. It's about maximizing the value of each product.
Over its entire lifespan.
Yes, exactly. And I bet this resonates with customers who are thinking more and more about the environment.
For sure. People want to buy from companies that are eco-conscious.
It demonstrates a commitment to sustainability that goes beyond just marketing slogans.
It's not just greenwashing.
Exactly. And that can really set a company apart.
Okay, so we've talked about reselling, but what about repairs? Things break, right?
Of course.
How do digital tools fit into that part of the circular economy?
Well, think about Apple's self-service repair program.
Okay.
They give customers access to repair manuals and genuine parts so they can fix their devices themselves.
Interesting. But isn't that kind of risky for Apple? Wouldn't they make more money if people just bought new iPhones every time something went wrong?
Maybe in the short term. But remember, we're talking about building long-term relationships and fostering a circular mindset, right?
Right.
By empowering customers to repair their devices,
Yeah.
Apple is demonstrating their commitment to sustainability and building trust.
So it's like a long game.
Yeah.
You're playing the trust card, hoping they'll come back to you later.
Exactly. It shows that they care about the product's entire life cycle.
Not just the initial sale.
Exactly. And it plays into this whole idea of transparency, you know? They provide comprehensive product histories and make repair information easy to find.
Makes sense.
And that helps foster a culture of ownership and responsibility.
I like that. But let's be honest here. Not everyone's, going to be comfortable taking apart their phone or their laptop.
Right.
What about people like me who are maybe a little less tech savvy?
Well, that's where these platforms can be really helpful. They can go beyond just providing manuals, you know? They can guide people through DIY repairs,
Okay.
offer troubleshooting tips, even connect them with certified repair shops in their area.
So like a digital safety net.
Exactly. It takes the guesswork out of repairs. And this all ties back to that closed loop system, right?
Right.
Making repair more accessible keeps products in use longer.
It reduces waste.
Exactly. And that's what the circular economy is all about.
Makes sense. Speaking of closing the loop, Jensen also talks about how digital tools can make recycling easier, right?
Yes. He does. He imagines an app that could tell you where the nearest recycling center is, but also gives you information on how to properly disassemble your product.
Oh, that would be amazing. I'm always so confused about what can be recycled.
Right. Like, do you need to take the batteries out of your old phone, or can you just throw the whole thing in?
Exactly. It's so confusing.
Yeah, so this app could make it all much clearer. It would remove those barriers and make recycling more intuitive and less intimidating for everyone.
Less intimidating, yeah. I like that. It could even offer rewards for recycling, right?
Exactly. That could be a great incentive for people to make that extra effort.
Rewards. Now you're talking, okay, but where does personalization come into all of this? I thought that was just about getting targeted ads online.
Personalization is so much more than that, especially in the context of the circular economy. Jensen argues that personalization can be used to actually nudge customers towards circular behaviors.
Okay.
Think about it. If a company knows you usually keep your phone for a few years, they could send you personalized tips on how to extend its lifespan even further.
Instead of always trying to sell you the latest model.
Exactly. They'd be helping you get more value out of your existing product.
That's a much better approach.
Yeah.
And it's not just about information either. Remember that Burger King UK example?
Oh, yeah. That was a great one. They had a digital incentive program that rewarded customers who chose reusable packaging.
Right. They were actually using data to encourage specific behaviors that support the circular economy.
Precisely. It's like a gentle nudge in the right direction.
A gentle nudge. Okay, I like that. And this brings us to another important aspect that Jensen highlights, which is direct dialogue and community building.
Right.
Digital tools allow manufacturers to talk directly with their customers, right?
Yes.
Which creates all sorts of opportunities for feedback and even co-creation.
Absolutely. It's a two-way street. The company isn't just dictating everything.
They're actually listening to their customers.
Right. And they can incorporate that feedback into their circular strategies.
That's how it should be. And social media is a great example of this.
Yes. Social media can be used to build entire communities around circularity.
That's cool.
Companies can share best practices there, they can foster collaboration, and they can advocate for change.
It becomes a movement, not just a marketing campaign.
Exactly.
I like that. But with all this talk about data and personalization, doesn't it get a little creepy?
You mean in terms of privacy?
Yeah, like are we crossing a line?
It's a valid concern, but Jensen emphasizes that transparency and user consent are super important.
Okay.
Customers need to know what data is being collected, how it's being used, and what control they have over their own information.
They need to have a choice.
Exactly. It's about building trust, not eroding it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And being transparent about your data practices could actually be a good thing for a business, right?
Absolutely. In a world where everyone's worried about data privacy, companies that are open and ethical about their data practices will be the ones that earn customer trust and loyalty in the long run.
And that trust is essential for the circular economy to really take off.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about how companies can use digital tools to engage customers in the circular economy.
Right.
But how do companies get themselves ready for this whole digital transformation?
That's where digital readiness comes in. Jensen argues that manufacturers need to ensure that all their data can be integrated and that it's compatible with various third-party platforms.
That sounds complicated.
It can be. He's talking about standardized data formats, APIs, and protocols.
Okay.
So that information can flow freely between systems.
So it's like creating a universal language for the circular economy.
Exactly. Everyone needs to be able to communicate and share information effectively.
Right. It's about breaking down those data silos and creating a truly interconnected ecosystem.
Exactly, where information is accessible and actionable.
And that's key for enabling a true circular economy, where data flows freely and informs decisions at every stage.
Exactly.
This sounds like a huge undertaking.
It is, and Jensen acknowledges the challenges. He also talks about data security.
Oh, right, because with all this data flying around.
Yeah, it's a prime target for hackers.
It is.
And data security is about more than just protecting customer information. It's about protecting the integrity of the whole circular economy.
If people lose trust in the system.
Right. Then they might not want to participate.
It could all fall apart.
Exactly.
So companies need to be really careful.
They need to strike that balance between using data effectively and keeping it secure.
And respecting user privacy.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the human element.
Right.
Technology is important, but it's up to us to use it ethically and responsibly.
That's a good point. The circular economy isn't just about bits and bytes.
Right.
It's about people and values and a shared vision for a better future.
Well said. And I think after reading this chapter, I'm feeling pretty optimistic.
Me too. It's inspiring to see how companies are using digital tools to not only improve their own operations, but also to empower customers to make more sustainable choices.
It really shows the power of collaboration and innovation.
It feels like we're at this turning point where technology and sustainability are coming together.
Yes.
To create a more equitable and sustainable future.
I agree.
But as we've discussed, it's not a magic bullet, right?
Yeah.
It takes effort from everyone. Businesses, policymakers, and individuals.
To make it work.
We all need to embrace these new ways of thinking and acting.
And that's where customer engagement is so important.
Jensen talks about that, right?
He does. He says we need to move beyond transactional interactions and build real relationships with customer.
Not just trying to sell them something.
Exactly. It's about creating a sense of community and working together to find solutions.
I like that.
Yeah.
So social media platforms could be used for sharing best practices and fostering collaboration.
Exactly. They can become tools for empowering customers and driving real change.
But it's not just about broadcasting information, right? Companies need to be listening to their customers,
Of course.
understanding their needs and responding to their feedback
Absolutely. It needs to be a two-way conversation.
to build trust and transparency.
Exactly. And Jensen also talks about the potential of things like gamification and digital loyalty programs.
To encourage circular behaviors.
Yes. So you could use game mechanics to make sustainability more engaging and rewarding.
Like points and badges and leaderboards.
Exactly. You're tapping into that human desire for competition and achievement.
And using it to drive positive change.
Exactly. But there's a risk that this could come across as gimmicky or insincere, right?
It's not genuine.
Right. So authenticity and transparency are key.
Companies can't just slap a green label on something and call it a day.
No, they need to back it up with real actions and measurable results.
They need to show that they're actually making a difference.
Exactly. And that includes being open about the challenges and limitations of their sustainability journey.
No company is perfect.
Right. It's okay to acknowledge that, and it might even make you more relatable to customers.
Makes sense. So it's about being honest and accountable and always trying to do better. But even with the best intentions, couldn't there be unintended consequences? I mean, technology can be used for good or bad.
That's true. So that's where ethical considerations come in. Jensen argues that companies need to go beyond just following the rules.
They need to have a moral compass.
Right. They need to adopt an ethical framework that guides their data practices and make sure they're using data for good.
It's not just about what's legal. It's about what's right.
Exactly. And that means thinking about the impact of their actions on everyone.
Customers, employees, communities, the environment.
Everyone.
It's about the big picture.
It is, but that sounds really hard to put into practice.
It does. How do companies even begin to do something like that?
It starts with leadership. Jensen really emphasizes the importance of strong leadership in making the circular economy a reality.
Okay.
It's not enough to just implement a few small initiatives. It has to be a fundamental shift in mindset.
And that has to come from the top.
Exactly. Leaders need to set ambitious goals, empower their employees, and create a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
That's a lot.
It is. And they need to be willing to collaborate with partners across the whole value chain.
Suppliers, retailers, recyclers, even competitors.
Everyone.
Wow. So it's not just about talking the talk, it's about walking the walk.
Exactly. And that kind of change takes time.
It does. But Jensen seems optimistic. He thinks the next few years will be critical in shaping the future of the circular economy.
Yeah, it feels like we're at a crossroads. We have the technology, the knowledge, and the awareness.
Now it's time to take action.
And that action needs to come from all of us, not just businesses.
As consumers, we have a responsibility too.
We do. We can support sustainable practices and demand more transparency from the companies we buy from.
We can vote with our wallets.
We can. And even with all the challenges, I'm feeling hopeful.
Me too. After all, every little bit helps, right?
It does. Every small action can make a big difference.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the big picture stuff, the concepts and strategies.
Right.
But I'm curious about what this actually looks like in practice. What are some of the specific tools that companies are using to really bring this circular economy to life?
Well, Jensen talks about a few really interesting examples. He mentions augmented reality, for instance.
Oh, AR.
Where customers could use their smartphones to see how a product was made, what its environmental impact is, even how to repair it.
It's like taking all that transparency we talk about.
Right.
And making it.
Yeah, taking it to a whole new level.
Bringing it to life.
Yeah.
No more mystery about where your stuff comes from.
Exactly. And it can be really engaging, too.
More than just reading a label.
Way more. Imagine using AR to, virtually try on clothes before you buy them online.
Oh, that's cool. Especially pre-owned clothing.
Exactly. Or you could see how a refurbished piece of furniture would look in your living room.
Oh, I love that. You could design your whole house with pre-owned furniture.
Right. It makes the whole circular economy much more tangible and fun.
Yeah, it's not just this abstract idea anymore.
Exactly.
What about virtual reality? Any cool applications for VR in this space?
Oh, tons. VR can create these incredibly immersive experiences.
I can imagine.
Like imagine taking a virtual tour of a factory
Okay.
to see how products are made with recycled materials. Or you could step inside a recycling facility to see the whole process firsthand.
Wow, that's powerful. It's like going behind the scenes.
It is. And it helps people connect with the circular economy on a much deeper level.
It's not just intellectual anymore, it's emotional.
Exactly. And when you combine that with things like personalized recommendations, suggesting products with a longer lifespan or repair services or eco-friendly alternatives.
It creates this whole new way for people to engage with the circular economy.
Exactly. It's like having a digital guide leading you towards more sustainable choices.
I love that.
Yeah.
But with all this amazing technology, are we forgetting about the people who don't have access to it?
You mean those who aren't as tech savvy?
Yeah. Or those who don't have the latest gadgets or reliable internet access.
That's a really important point. And Jensen talks about this too. He emphasizes that digital tools and platforms need to be designed with inclusivity in mind.
Okay, so accessibility is key.
It is. We need user-friendly interfaces, clear instructions, multiple language options.
And it has to be compatible with assistive technologies.
Exactly. Because if we want the circular economy to be successful,
Yeah.
we need everyone to be able to participate.
Everyone needs to be on board.
Exactly.
And that brings us back to leadership, right?
It does. Jensen argues that strong leadership is absolutely essential for building a culture of circularity within organizations.
It can't just be a few random initiatives here and there.
No, it has to be a real shift in mindset.
Companies have to walk the walk.
Exactly. Leaders need to set ambitious goals, empower their employees, and foster a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
That's a big change.
It is. And they also need to be willing to collaborate.
With everyone, right?
With everyone. Suppliers, retailers, recyclers, even competitors.
Wow. So it's really about breaking down those traditional silos.
It is. We need to create a truly collaborative ecosystem if we want to make real progress.
It's inspiring to think about.
It is. We have the opportunity to create a much more sustainable and equitable future.
One where economic prosperity goes hand in hand with environmental responsibility.
That's what this act. It's a powerful vision.
And it's within our reach if we're willing to work together.
And embrace these new ways of thinking and acting.
Absolutely.
Well, I think this conversation has given us a lot to think about.
I hope so.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into the world of digital customer touchpoints in the circular economy.
It has.
And we hope you've learned something new today.
And that you feel inspired to make a difference.
Even small actions can have a big impact.
They can. So let's all do our part to create a more circular world.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep diving deep.
I hope today's AI-powered discussion helped highlight why customer touchpoints are essential for manufacturers transitioning to a circular economy. If you take away 3 key insights from this episode, you should know that, first of all, manufacturers must move beyond a sell and forget mindset. A circular economy requires direct, ongoing engagement with product users and service providers, not just the supply chain partners. You should also notice that customer touchpoints enable product longevity and deeper relationships. Manufacturers can keep products in use longer and strengthen brand loyalty by providing repair guidance, maintenance support, and sustainability education. And the third thing, capturing user data is key to data-driven circularity. Every customer interaction provides valuable insights that fuel predictive maintenance, resource optimization, and new business models. To fully understand how customer engagement fuels circular success, I encourage you to get my book, where I provide in-depth strategies and examples on implementing these practices. And because customer engagement and circularity are constantly evolving, I continue to add fresh insights and updates at circularpathwaysbook.com. So until next time, keep engaging, keep optimizing, and keep building a stronger, more connected circular economy.